welcome to episode number 93 of the KH-Vids Podcast. This week we're going to be talking about strong female characters inspired by a movie that came out recently and that I saw. So this week you have with us, of course, your usual hosts of course, myself, Misty.
And me, Libre JKD.
And me, Calaxon.
I messed that up a little bit. And,
it's cool. It's all good.
Yeah, I know. And then as our staff guest we have...
I jump in?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Crowley! Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yep, so we have Crowley with us and no member guest. So usually we talk about Kingdom Hearts news and updates, but first of all, we did a whole episode on Kingdom Hearts news and updates last week, which is really exciting. But yeah, so if you want all the latest news on the new Kingdom Hearts smartphone game, Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key, definitely check out episode number 92 and just listen to all of our podcast episodes all the time, but especially episode number 92. And this was technically announced a while ago, like 10 days ago, but we didn't mention it on the last episode because we were so focused on Unchained Key, but I figured I'd bring it up anyway. Square Enix's E3 press conference on the 16th of June has been pushed back an hour to 10 a.m. Pacific time. The conference will therefore no longer conflict with Nintendo Direct, which is at 9 a.m. They were both at 9 a.m. originally, and that was a nightmare because it was like, oh my god, do I watch Nintendo Direct or do I watch Square Enix? But now that's no longer an issue. Doesn't affect that many people unless you were planning to watch E3 live, and we'll talk about that actually at the end of the episode, but it's still good to know. So this week we're going to be talking about strong female characters, capital letters on every term there, and it's a term that is floated around a lot and that I have my problems with, and that I was inspired to bring up this episode because I just saw Mad Max. You don't have to have seen Mad Max to understand this episode, really just going to be using it as an example, but I thought I'd say that it is my inspiration. You guys know that I'm always up to talk about female representation in anything, and that I bring it up even when it's not relevant to the podcast that week. So this is kind of a topic that we'll always be talking about, and I'm sure we're going to revisit it, but I wanted to talk about it especially this week because I just saw Mad Max. So to give a little background, critics kind of routinely apply this term in looking at media, and they are usually decrying works for lacking strong female characters. And I want to explore what the term actually means, and is it actually something that we should be striving for given the problems surrounding the term. So the intention is to argue for empowered female characters with agency, ones who operate in the story for their own means and not simply to bolster or add to the male main character's arc, and that's great. But the term also seems to demand the wrong kind of female character to counteract that imbalanced writing of females in the media. And that's really what I want to explore today. The problems with the term and how we can kind of correct them and what we really should be looking for in writing female characters. So I think that the problem with the term is that it's demanding tough, badass women who are nothing but, like, strong juggernauts that'll, like, kick you in the face. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Like, it's a weird term because whenever this is just kind of whenever you say the word strong, people tend to just kind of go to that, badass, which, a strong character doesn't necessarily need to be a badass at all.
And badassery does not have to be just, like, kicking people in the face.
That too. But, like, a lot of the time for me, for a strong female character, and this kind of just applies to characters in general, but is that it's more than just being this tough thing.
Yes.
To me, it always means that they're a person. It's not anything to do with, like, how badass or how not badass they are, or how weak or how not weak they are. It's more that they're a believable person to me.
Which is just good writing.
Which there should be more of in general.
Yes.
Is just good writing. Because I feel a lot of, if you just had good writing and aren't falling to just these really overdone tropes and cliches and all this other stuff, you actually see better characters in general. But it's particularly for female characters, those tropes and cliches it affects the development of those type of characters more than you would say a male character or something like that.
And that's kind of the interesting issue with the term of strong female characters, that I feel like it was probably, I don't know where it was first coined, I'm sure it was years and years and years ago, and I'm sure that it was first intended to just talk about, like, we want well-written female characters, but somewhere along the line, that just got messy, and people started believing that it was only like tough badass women. It's such an interesting issue to me because I like the idea of strong female characters, and I use the term kind of interchangeably with well-written female characters, but I feel like the people that both use the term and the people that hear the term are misunderstanding it in a way.
Given how easy it is to misunderstand things, that probably would not surprise me in the least.
Yeah, there's a quote. I'm going to be quoting a lot from this post on Tumblr because I love it and it got like really popular, so I'm sure people have heard it, but they're talking about kind of this issue, and the Tumblr username is Mad Lori to credit it, so good job, Tumblr user Mad Lori. They're saying, we've somehow backed ourselves into this corner where the only acceptable portrayal of a woman in the media is a strong, kick-ass woman. That is not doing women any favors. It just leads to the attitude that you have to be one way only to be legit as a woman. And I think that that's kind of the issue here, that people assume that that's what the term strong female character means.
And since we bring up Mad Max as our inspiration, that's a good example because you have Furiosa, which is that, badass, female character.
Yes.
But you have the wives that are escaping from Joe. They aren't necessarily badass, but they're still strong characters.
I think so, yeah. And then you have also the I don't know what they're called because I'm not like intimate.
Yeah, they're something mothers.
Yeah,
just mothers or something like that.
Those ladies that they hook up with like halfway through the movie. And so you have those. And I think that is something really important, which is like the multiplicity of female characters and how that affects portrayal. And we're definitely going to get to that. But yeah, Mad Max is an example where they do vary them and they are giving you well-written female characters. And Furiosa, I mean, I think that the number one term that you would be using to describe her would be badass.
Yeah.
But she's not just badass.
Yeah.
I think that she has a lot more behind her than just that. And that's an example of how you can do like the badass female character while still maintaining her as a well-written one. And it applies across the board, I think, that you can do a damsel in distress character as long as they have something more to them.
Yeah, again, this goes back to writing a good character because you want your characters to have more to them than just this one facet of that you see. You like if you're writing a character that is defined by one trait or one action or one personality
we're talking about strictly females in the movie industry, right? Like strong female lead characters in film, right?
It can be video games, books, anything, literally anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
With movies, it's always they always have to wrap up so much character development in only so much of a limited time frame. But with strong female lead movies, it always feels like they always have to be the opposite of what a male lead character is. So like the male lead character always has to like fight for like the female supporting cast or get supported by her or just get inspired by her. With the strong female lead, it always feels like the supporting male cast always has to be one-upped by her or be a romantic love interest or something along those lines.
Which is another way that Mad Max kind of excels, that there is no romantic subplot going on here. But I want to read more from that Mad Lori post on Tumblr because I know I'm going to read from it eventually, so I figure I'm just going to go for it.
Just do it now.
Yeah, this is like the long one, and we'll just get it out of the way. So she writes, screw writing strong women, write interesting women, write well-rounded women, write complicated women, write a woman who kicks ass, write a woman who cowers in a corner, write a woman who's desperate for a husband, write a woman who doesn't need a man, write women who cry, women who rant, women who are shy, women who don't take no women who need validation, and women who don't care what anybody thinks. They are all okay, and all those things could exist in the same woman. Women shouldn't be valued because we are strong or kick-ass, but because we are people. So don't focus on writing characters who are strong. Write characters who are people. The only bad female character, if you ask me, is one who's flat, one who isn't realistic, one who has no agency of her own, who only exists to define to other characters, usually men. Write each woman you write as if she has her own life story, her own motivations, her own strengths and fears, and even if she's only in the story for one page, she will be a real person, and that is what we need. Not a phalanx of women who can karate chop your head off, but real women who are people with all the complexity and strong and not strong that goes with it. I love that quote. I think that quote is amazing, and Tumblr expectedly blew up with that quote, people using it all over the place, and that's awesome, because I think that is the key issue here, that they can be vulnerable and have, I don't know, not negative personality traits, but things like being shy or timid or very feminine, and still be a well-written female character. And I don't know. Like, part of me wants to say I wish that people would stop using the term strong female character because of all that it carries with it and sort of the misunderstanding behind it. But the other part of me is, like, I think that we're just referring to well-written female characters and people just need to stop misusing it.
I mean, I guess if you're using an adjective like strong, it could mean so many different things that you get into that situation where you'll have misunderstanding sometimes unintentionally, sometimes intentionally. It's a weird thing. Like, almost anything that kind of gets thrown into this sphere of characters and stuff like that, it just turns into this weird mishmash of misunderstanding or just people not thinking.
I think just strong portrayal of women is where it comes from.
Yeah.
And a strong portrayal of women means having a lot of women and varied women and well-written women, not women that are physically strong necessarily. So I want to get into examples of this now that we've kind of like defined it. And I mean, we can definitely talk about Mad Max for a very long time, and I guess that now is as good a time as any to do it, especially given the kind of backlash that has surrounded Mad Max. So Nick, you know more about Mad Max. Do you want to talk about it, or should I?
I mean, it depends on what...
I mean, I want to get into kind of like the backlash, but I guess we should give the background of Mad Max. It was a trilogy?
Yeah, Mad Max was a trilogy.
If you count Thunderdome. Oh.
Yeah, well, let's.
Let's.
It was the original 3 movies back in the 80s.
Or I think it was the 90s.
It was mid 80s to early 90s.
Oh, okay.
Starring Mel Gibson as Mad Max. It was actually some of his first movies, if I remember correctly. But anyway, it was just this post-apocalyptic action fest of just cars and Australia. There's not really not much you can say besides, it was the type of 80s action fest that you would expect. It was a bit more of it wasn't as much of a Hollywood blockbuster type movie. It was very much had a cult following, and at the time it didn't really have a huge budget because it was just kind of this thing being produced. And then Miller, the director and writer, just the guy who invented Mad Max, he's been trying to make this 4th movie since 98. Then funding fell through, and then he's been trying to kind of just make the movie ever since for the past like over a decade. And he has enough material for more movies, and hopefully, since this one seems to be doing pretty well, considering.
Really well.
Yeah, I'm hoping that more get produced, because I know there was a lot of concern over the performance of this movie just because it cost $150 million to make, and that type of budget for what was a cult following movie is like unheard of, and that could have gone really, really bad. But I'm happy that it seems to have paid off.
And that is, while I love that kind of genre of movie, it's not one that has traditionally been very friendly to women. No. And that's what I think is amazing about the new Mad Max movie, Fury Road, that it is a movie that places a woman kind of at the forefront of it. And not just a female character, but the story of a bunch of women. Yeah. The basic premise is that Max kind of gets embroiled in this woman's like mission to liberate these, I don't want to call them like sex slaves, but they are sex slaves.
Yeah, they're used for breeding.
Yes.
So, yes. It is a story about escaping sexual slavery.
Yes.
With, like, no actual, like, nudity except for that one little part.
Yes, which is also phenomenal. But, yeah, and I love that this is, this genre that hasn't been friendly to women in the past, kind of dragging it into the modern era and hopefully getting more Mad Max movies, that it's coming out with such a strong stance in favor of women and a portrayal of women, because I feel like that's kind of modernizing it. I haven't seen the other Mad Max movies, so I don't know how they treated women, if this was like an exception to the rule where they were good towards women, but based on what I read,
I could say that it wasn't really memorable.
Okay, yeah, and so in Fury Road, Charlize Theron plays Imperator Furiosa, who is just the badass that we've been talking about this whole time. And, like, it just all over the place. She's driving this war rig. She, like, not kidnaps them, but she's helping them escape this, like, evil society. And, like, she's she's fucking awesome. She really is. Like, there's a scene where Max literally gives her a rifle because he's saying, like, you're a better shot than me, and I know that you can make this shot, and I can. And it's just, it's incredible. Like, you're sitting there.
She also has a pretty badass robot arm.
Yes, she's a disabled woman on top of that. It's just, it's phenomenal. I was sitting there in the theater, like, the whole time, like, a huge smile on my face. Just, I can't believe that this is going on. Which was caused also by the flame-throwing guitar. But,
yes,
but that was... also Charlize Theron. And so, this all sounds phenomenal. Like, you should be sitting here like, I need to go see this movie. And that's what happened with me, that I was not interested really in Mad Max for whatever reason. But when I read about Charlize Theron in this movie, I was like, I need to go see this movie. And so I hope that's a vibe that everybody that's listening to this podcast is getting. Unfortunately, a group of people who are, I would equate with the MRAs and the Menists, came out saying, like, this is horrible. I can't believe that they did this to Mad Max, and the feminists are taking over, and men are being oppressed, etc., etc. And that is fucking disgusting, and I want to come out and say that on this podcast, and basically say, if you believe in that, then you should stop listening to this podcast, because I don't want you here. But I can't believe that people... go on.
Like, it was particularly weird for me, because, I mean, I saw the movie. I mean, I've heard about that backlash before I actually saw the movie, just because... kind of hard not to, and after seeing the movie, it's weird. like I'm not sure what I wasn't even entirely sure exactly what was the complaints.
It's like, so puzzling. I mean
it was a vague overall complaint about feminism and stuff like that, but I don't know exactly what it was. Like,
I know, because, like, I haven't seen Mad Max, so I'm not, like, familiar with this character, but I didn't walk out of the theater saying, like, oh man, Max is such a pussy. Not that I would use that word, but Max is such like a lame-o guy. I can't think of a word to replace him. But Max, you know, he didn't really do anything. He wasn't cool, you know, he was not competent, he wasn't an action hero. I didn't walk out of the theater saying that. I still thought that Max was a badass.
Yeah, I mean, he gets caught in the opening, but, like, what action hero doesn't get caught and tries to escape
and he breaks out? So
he breaks out.
That's what action heroes do. They get kidnapped and then they escape. It's so puzzling. I don't understand what they're objecting to, because Max still had a very big role in the movie. And I mean, not to say that he took a back seat. Well, actually, he didn't take a back seat. He took maybe like a passenger seat to the storyline, which is kind of what literally happens. So he is kind of, I guess, in the background of the storyline, but he's still supporting it, and there are still scenes about him.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, I guess you could say, is that he wasn't the star, I guess you can say. I would still paint it as a co-star.
Yes.
In this particular case. But even from what I remember of, like, Beyond Thunderdome and Road Warrior I mean, he was there, but he did a good job of supporting others around him more than him being the focus.
And I think that that's badass in its own right, that this is an action hero who's propping up other women and supporting them. And I think that's awesome. That, to me, is a qualifier for a badass character.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a weird thing to say that he wasn't the, like, sole focus of this movie, because outside of what I remember from the first one, he wasn't entirely the sole focus of the second or third movies.
But was it a male character in Furiosa's place, kind of, in the other ones?
Yeah.
So,
it's been, as I said, it's been a long time, but I remember, like, main plot points, but that's about it. But yeah, but still, the point being was that he wasn't necessarily always the sole focus in other movies.
The genre always kind of felt different for each of the films. So
yeah,
like,
that is true.
Yeah, it goes from, like, action, then it goes kind of into a western, and now it's almost borderline sci-fi.
I wouldn't say sci-fi. I would still side on it being an action thing, because there's nothing particularly sci-fi about it.
Well, it is like the post-apocalyptic society.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you bundle in, like, post-apocalyptic stuff into sci-fi, because there's, like...
That's the thing. I always think the post-apocalyptic should be, like, its own genre at this point, because it's not...
Everything is post-apocalyptic.
Yeah. Everything is post-apocalyptic. Yeah, it's just, it's like its own beast.
Yeah, like, I mean, because, I mean, if you look at Fury Road, there's nothing particularly advanced about anything.
I don't know, that flame-throwing guitar was pretty... I didn't think that could exist in our world, but it does.
It does. That's the great. This is completely off subject to our entire podcast subject, but there's like little to no CGI in that movie.
I know.
Like that guitar exists.
I know.
Somewhere.
I know.
That's just mind blowing to me.
Yeah, that was amazing. I was like, my level of hype for like the female characters was like through the roof, but like the guitar was pretty high up there too. Yeah, but to bring the example into things that maybe our listeners will be more familiar with than the rest of us, I want to talk about Kingdom Hearts here. Because, you know, this is the KH-Vids podcast. We have to talk about Kingdom Hearts all the time. And the portrayal of women in Kingdom Hearts is always that thing that has just kind of like nagged at me. Like, I love Kingdom Hearts, but because it's a series that has so much potential for its female characters, but that routinely chooses not to use it. And I struggle so much to say that it is like misogynistic, because I don't think that it's actively doing this. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what it is that keeps holding them back from putting women in more empowered roles.
I would say it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Mostly Japanese culture isn't as, how should I put it, receptive. I don't want to sound like, you know, an awful person right here, but I do think it is sort of a cultural thing where it's not something they think about, or it's not something that is thought about.
That is true.
If you look at all the Final Fantasy games, like, I think only 2 have very main central female characters.
I mean, Final Fantasy is weird. I have weird feelings about the role of women in Final Fantasy characters, but I think that is true, that it is a cultural thing, that, you know, like a Western developer like Assassin's Creed, like with Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft, that Ubisoft got blasted for not having women in Assassin's Creed Unity, and I think that seriously affected the game, whereas you don't see that public response with a Japanese game or developer.
Well, if you look at the first Kingdom Hearts game, there were only 4 original main characters: Sora, Kairi, Riku, and Ansem. Yeah. That means a quarter of the original characters, even though it was 1, were female. Come Kingdom Hearts 2. Way more expansive universe. We got the Twilight Town people, we got the Organization 13, we got so many more original characters. And even after 7 games, we literally only have, I think, 7 original female characters, which are Kairi, Olette, Naminé, Larcene, Aqua, Xion, and Kairi's grandma.
And Kairi's grandma and Olette, like, barely count.
Yeah.
Actually, I love Olette, but I mean, yeah, that's like kind of the issue, that the ratio of original female characters to original male characters is just absurd. It really is absurd.
Yeah. And it's weird too, because they, as you said, there's potential there, because like Aqua, I think, is actually a really good character.
Yes.
Like that. I think I've said this multiple times, but I think she was my favorite character in Birth by Sleep. But when you think of other characters...
When you think of the Organization 13, that they sat down and said, we have to think up 13 characters, and one of them was a woman. I mean, Marluxia was supposed to be a girl, but they changed it. I forget the reason why they switched it, like, at the last minute. And
I know why.
Go ahead, Cal.
It's because they didn't want to have 2 female characters betraying the organization, because essentially that's what Marluxia and Larcene are doing. So at the same time, I'm kind of glad that they didn't do that, because I feel like it would be like, wow, you have another girl character in the game, and this is what you're doing with her? Like, gosh, guys. You know, because there aren't really that many in there, and to make both of them kind of the villain of Rechain would be kind of, I don't know.
I don't like those reasons. I have problems with those reasons. But, like, still, that percentage is ridiculous. And I guess, you know, we can say, like, okay, Xion adds another one to the organization. But still, they sat down and made 13 characters, and none of them, except for Larcene, could be a woman. Like, that bothers me. I'm angry about that.
I feel like also the problem with Kingdom Hearts is that, not that it's not very consistent, but it feels like everything that goes on in Kingdom Hearts is just in, like, Nomura's head. It isn't, you know, anywhere else. Like, I can't see... The thing is that since it's all going on, like, in his mind, I feel like it's harder for other people to put in input, and I feel like since it's, I don't know, it's kind of like his baby, that... For some reason, it's just, again, it's a cultural thing, and since it's him making all this stuff, and because Nomura is obviously a guy, and I feel like that when we're making characters, like even in RPGs and stuff, we tend to like lean more towards our gender, so that could be a reason for it too. I just feel like it's kind of Kingdom Hearts, it's not Kingdom Hearts limiting itself as a whole, but I think it's just him, sort of.
Yeah.
The thing I like about Kingdom Hearts is it's not like trying to like empower people or genders or anything like that. It's just like generally like the themes of it that I like. It's like that we are connected and that friendship is power and stuff.
Well, something doesn't have to be about empowering women to have a positive portrayal of women. And I think that that's kind of the issue with Mad Max, that people are saying, like, Mad Max is feminist propaganda. No, it's not. It's just a movie that portrays women well. Yeah, it's weird with Kingdom Hearts. I don't know. I think part of the problem is just that Nomura is, like, thinking up all these storylines in his head, and he's like, okay, so this is what Sora is doing, and this is what Riku's doing, this is what Xehanort is doing, and then he just kind of, like, maybe forgets about Kairi.
Yeah, exactly what I meant. Because I feel like that since there's all this stuff going on, and since he's piled, like, you know, we have the Sora, like, Kingdom Hearts 1 was easy, okay? And it looked like Kairi was gonna get something at the end, because, I mean, she got split up from them, but I felt like, watching the Kingdom Hearts 1, like, ending, I was just like, okay, this is going somewhere, but I think the problem is that the plot is so convoluted now, there's no room. There's no space to be adding, and I think that's why Birth by Sleep was able to kind of stretch the boundaries a little bit, because it wasn't in the Sora kind of storyline. It was before Sora, and that made it easier for them to do stuff, because, I mean, having Kairi in here, especially, well, now in Kingdom Hearts 3, I hope that they do that, but having her in Kingdom Hearts, like, 3D wouldn't make... I feel like it wouldn't make too much sense, because she hasn't really been training with them, right? And that's a mark of mastery and stuff.
Yeah.
And most of the games don't really center around all three of them. Like, Recoded, it's just Sora. 358 it was just Roxas, but then and then Rechain, it's just Sora too. Like, we don't really
also
see
Riku.
Riku
and Riku. So we don't really see kind of the expansive universe that we saw with Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and that could also be part of the problem.
Yeah. I think the convoluted thing is a good point too, though, that, like, to introduce Kairi into the equation in the plot in, like, a major way, it would just lump more on that they have to deal with and that they have to wrap up. And so, I mean, an argument against giving Kairi a major role in Kingdom Hearts 3, maybe that's the one that I can accept.
I think we clearly need more cutscenes in this series, 14 hours plus isn't enough.
This is just reaffirming my belief that when Kingdom Hearts 3 is done, they should just start from scratch.
Yeah, really. I do want to talk about Aqua, though, because Aqua is kind of the shining exception in all of this. I love Aqua. I think that Aqua is incredibly important, not just in that she is a female character that, gets to be playable and gets a major role in the Kingdom Hearts series.
She's also she isn't the typical badass.
Exactly.
Like,
she is
character.
Very feminine. She has
She's
those
responsible
feminine traits. She's kind of motherly in a way.
She
Not
is.
in, like, a matronly way, but she's very protective of all of the characters. She's trying to, like, make sure that everybody gets along in a way and just kind of bring her friends home. Her outfit is kind of feminine, and, she has those feminine traits, but that doesn't prevent her from being a badass, and that I really like that. My one point of contention with Aqua is that her ultimate... Birth by Sleep spoilers follow. The game has been out for 5 years. You have no excuses. Her ultimate sacrifice is for men. It is to save Terra and, I guess, indirectly
Quote,
save Ben.
Terra, asterisk.
Yeah, well, yeah. To
Nobody's
try to
getting
save
saved
Terra.
in this game.
To try to save Terra.
Well,
And
no
so-
one really dies in the game either, so...
Nobody dies in Kingdom
Nobody
Hearts.
dies and nobody can be saved.
sad.
They evaporate
Yeah.
or go into somebody else's body, and, like, that's very spiritual world of Kingdom Hearts.
I feel like the
I'm-
opposite side to that argument, though, is that, like, Ven and Terra both sacrificed themselves for Aqua, too, so
Yes.
I feel like if it was just Aqua, that would be kind of weird, but since it's, like, 50-50, it's a bit better.
Everybody's sacrificing themselves for everybody in this game.
Yeah, basically.
It's
Like,
like
you have-
Romeo
you have
and Juliet,
Ben-
like where
But-
Romeo, what happens first? Juliet is sleeping because of the potion, and Romeo kisses her, and then he takes the potion, and then Juliet kills herself. It's just like a huge mess.
Because Romeo kills himself because he believes Juliet is dead and he can't go on living.
Yeah.
And then Juliet wakes up, sees that Romeo's dead, and then she kills herself because she can't
Well, she
go
was
on living.
14,
Oh, yeah, but I
We
mean,
see
it's...
things a little more personally
But yeah,
at that
like,
age.
that game is just weird where you have Ven trying to sacrifice himself for Aqua and Terra by turning himself over to Ericus. And then you have Terra sacrificing himself for Aqua and Ven by just kind of succumbing to whatever the hell
Darkness.
Xehanort was doing. And then you have Aqua sacrificing herself for Ven and Terra by sealing away Ven somewhere safe.
Yeah.
And Terra getting him out of wherever he was.
And so, yeah, there is that excuse, and I think that also it's not done in, like, a romantic way where the love interest is sacrificed to further the man pain. There is no element of, I guess, because Ven and Terra are gone, so they can't be, like, sad about Aqua being
that
trapped.
Is also
but
true.
it is not done in a romantic way, and I like that, and that is the one criticism that I will accept of Aqua-Terra shipping, that shipping Aqua and Terra kind of changes Aqua's storyline to be about, like, oh, I'm so in love with this guy and I have to do everything for him. I still am going to ship Aqua and Terra, but I do think that there are defenses to be made for Aqua, and I think that Aqua is kind of a strong portrayal of women, and that is why I was so pumped when Birth by Sleep came out, because I'm like, I had that hope that Aqua would turn out well, and they delivered on it, and I was so happy.
Yeah, because I mean, as you mentioned in previous games, it's mostly been about Sora's journey,
yes,
and all this other stuff. So other female characters, other characters in general as well, though,
get pushed aside.
Speaking as the female character in like the trio of friends, so like Xion, Aqua, and Kairi did kind of get pushed aside until like 2 onwards, where she like gets a Keyblade
and then still, it's like, okay, she got a Keyblade, and then what happens?
Aqua was way more of a central character because, again, you got to play her, and you got to actually follow her story, and you got to use her amazing, super cool abilities. And Xion was a little bit more introverted, I want to say. Just like a little more quiet and shy, and
then you have,
just like...
Namine,
I'm not
who's
I think Namine is really interesting.
Namine is interesting, but after Chain of Memories, it's like, okay.
She's forgotten. But I think that her role in Chain of Memories is really interesting, and I think that she's getting at this idea that we have of writing varied women. That Namine is... She's probably the most introverted of them all, and I mean, that's not exactly her doing. She's been like locked up in a room
cage
for her whole life. So, but she's a really, I think that she has a lot of potential to be looked at as kind of an abuse victim, and that she's just a really interesting character, and unfortunately she's just so underused. And that's really upsetting.
I was just gonna mention Namine, actually, for that same reason, because, I mean, I didn't really notice it back when I played half of Rechain of Memories, yeah, she's going under all this abuse in the castle, and I mean, it's not even just Marluxia, it's even like Axel for a little bit too, and even
Axel is manipulating her a lot.
And actually was manipulating everybody in that game.
Axel was kind of a jerk, and then I feel like in 2 they forgot how much of a jerk he was. Even Diz too. Like, Namine is just...
She's been treated like garbage.
She's been abused a lot.
Diz is just an asshole towards everybody, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
He just...
And I feel like that's good, though, to have Namine, because she differs from Kairi so much, because Kairi is this kind of outgoing, happy person, at least what we've seen of her. She does get a bit, like, mad at Sora, like, how dare you leave me on this island while you and Riku are going to do all this. But yeah, I think that Namine she's powerful that way, because it is varying between the girls that we do have in Kingdom Hearts, and even Larxene, like, she has such a different personality from all of the other girls too, and that's what I like about her, because she's more, I don't know, she's more in control of what's going on in the castle. I mean, obviously, her and Marluxia are kind of working together, so he's not above her or below her, but she's kind of bossing Axel around. I mean, she's talking back to Vexen, which he doesn't really like, so I think that's all kind of, it's cool, because we don't really get to see that with Kairi, or any of the other characters really have that about them, even the male ones, I'd say.
It's a shame Larxene didn't really make it past, like, I think she was the second to die, pretty sure. But, well, not die, but like fade into darkness, whatever.
She made it pretty far. You fight her after Destiny Islands for the second time, which is when you defeated her. But I think that's why I love, what Cal was saying, that's why I love Namine being in Chain of Memories. Because, like, one of the issues we have with portraying women is that there are just, like, 1, maybe 2 principal women, and therefore that character or characters has to shoulder, like, all the responsibility of being a good portrayal of women. And so that's how we fall into the trap of saying, like, okay, this is my female character, and she has to be very empowered and strong, because she is the only female character. And so, by the same token, like, if your one woman is a damsel in distress, that's a problematic portrayal of women. And so that's why we need several women, so that we can have varied characters, that we can have a woman that's maybe not so empowered, and then a woman who is really strong, and characters that are in the middle. And that's kind of how you write women well. And so for Chain of Memories, that they have Namine, who is very, like, timid and she needs to be protected and she is put into this bad situation and all of that she is kind of a damsel in distress. It's kind of okay because we have Larexine there too, who will not be protected by anyone. And so if we had, like some characters in the middle, which I guess you could argue like Kairi kind of fills that role and Aqua fills that role, not in the lens of Chain of Memories, but I guess in the broader lens of the Kingdom Hearts series, that is getting towards a more ideal representation of women, because you have women who are kind of all across the board.
I feel like Xion is pretty underappreciated too, because if you're looking at more of in the DS version, because I don't think too much has been cut out of the cinematic thing, but even like just talking to her and all that stuff, you see her develop from this person that didn't really have any happiness in their life into Xion, who's pretty happy with Axel and Roxas, and then she just kind of descends into madness basically. And I feel like that people don't give her enough credit, because she does give up herself, not because like she's in love with Roxas, but she gives herself up for someone that she hasn't even met, and I think that that's pretty
she's just the victim of being in a bad game.
Yeah.
So people
It had potential. It had potential. I liked where they were going with it, but then it got repetitive, but like the characters themselves, like the story is interesting enough. You have this person who was created for the sole purpose of just serving an organization's needs, and she got to make her own choice to sort of give up her own quote unquote life to restore somebody who could do better. And like in the time that she was with the organization, she was forced to do a lot, but she found friendship and yay, Kingdom Hearts, and then themes, and then spoilers.
I think that's really interesting about Xion, though, that her storyline is basically searching for sort of like personhood and identity, and sort of affirming like, I am my own person and I shouldn't have to be used towards others' means, I guess, is the idea. And so I think she definitely does deserve credit for that. Her ultimately being sacrificed is kind of going back on that, I guess, but I don't know. Xion does deserve some credit, I think.
That's why I think her sacrifice is different from Aqua's, because Aqua's doing it like for her friends, and obviously she has this bond with them, so I don't think she kind of feels like that she has to, but morally these are like people she cares about, whereas with Xion, she's doing it for the greater good, at least.
Sort of on principle, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, like, I would just wish that she was able to, I mean, but that is, I guess, kind of the tragedy of Xion's story, that she is looking for her own self, and that is something that we see all the time in Kingdom Hearts with the Nobodies and with Xion, that they're looking to be their own person, but
it turns out that she can't.
Yeah, and so I guess that is kind of the hope that, as Kingdom Hearts 3 sort of concludes everything, that they will get to be their own person. That being given to them by Sora's actions is, I guess, you could look at that from a gender stance of like the man saving the woman. But yeah, again, still, I'm kind of happy about Kingdom Hearts. And I think that another important thing that we have to bring up with Kingdom Hearts that Cal kind of touched upon is that it's never in a very overtly romantic or sexual way. That, of course, we have our character ships. Like, I think that on this podcast, a lot of us ship Sora and Kairi, and I'm definitely a big Aqua and Terra shipper. But there is virtually no romantic element in the games, I don't think. And I think that's something...
like the Paupu fruit is like the only thing that like kind of resembles it, but that's even like so innocent and like childlike.
If you look hard enough, you will find it. On the surface, not really.
We do have to remember this is rated E.
It is. But they should still do stuff in rated E games. But
I'm pretty sure one was rated 10+ for like.
It's always, I think, been 10+.
Yeah, that was Kingdom Hearts 2, because it had the pirates in it and they were drinking or something.
Actually, it probably would have always been E10+. It's just E10+ didn't exist when the first Kingdom Hearts game came out.
Yeah, but Nomura said in an early interview, and I think this was when the first game came out, like, I think people are kind of asking him about the Paupu fruit and the Sora and Kairi thing, and he was saying, I don't want to put romantic relationships in the game, that I really just wanted to write a story about friendship. And he said, like, that leaves it open for fans to kind of explore things, and I think he even said, like, I kind of like that fans have their own ideas about the characters' relationships. I mean, whether he would be happy about seeing some of the things that fans do with that is another story.
Not kind of related, but not really. I have this whole thing about, like, Riku and Kairi's connection, too, because I feel like that the game doesn't focus on that as much as Sora and Kairi. Like, I saw this while I was watching a playthrough, but when Riku's in your party and he dies, he just, like, he's, like, painfully pleading, and he's just like, Kairi, or whatever he says. That's my best Riku impression right there. But I feel like that's something else that sort of needs to be touched upon in the future.
I mean, Riku's always been being, like, shown as the lone wolf stereotype.
Yeah.
Deuteragonist.
Just go in his own, does stuff, and is ashamed by what he is at times. But yeah, I mean that obviously means he's still fine, you know, with friends and everything, but he is also just that kind of character that
I always liked Riku's relationship to Kairi, because to me it was always kind of brotherly. That, you know, especially in the first game, he wanted to protect and save Kairi, but I think that is very overtly in Chain of Memories, because there's that whole scene where Naminé appears to Riku as Kairi and sort of, like, saves him from falling into the darkness again. I think it's after the Lexie's battle. That's one of my favorite scenes in all of Kingdom Hearts, by the way. But but I think that he realizes slowly that Kairi is kind of saving him. And so we see that, you know, in Kingdom Hearts 2, that Kairi is the one to first see him as Xehanort's Heartless, and she's the kind of the one that inspires him to come out of it and sort of rejoin them. And so I think that they do have a really interesting dynamic. And I think that Kairi, in relation to all characters, it's so interesting because it doesn't have to be romantic or sexual, that this isn't, you know, a character existing only to meet the needs of a male character, that she gets to...
Sora's mom?
Sora's mom exists only to make dinner, and that's not feminist, and how dare the Kingdom Hearts series do this. But no, I think that it is really interesting that the women aren't there just as romantic interests. Maybe they don't get that much to do, and they have a lot of wasted potential, but at least they're not just being used as sexual objects. That is something that is working in Kingdom Hearts' favor. Maybe that's not totally intentional, so we can't, like, pat them on the backs that much for it, because it is a Disney game, but still,
but I think that's why it's not so overly, like past Square Enix games or anything like that, because it is a joint Disney property, so it's a little more innocent in that, right? Because they're using all the Walt Disney anime classics and, like, the magic of Disney. And...
But I mean, even segueing into talking about Final Fantasy and its portrayal of women, that Final Fantasy, I don't think that the romantic subplots in most Final Fantasies are that strong, except for Final Fantasy X. I guess Final Fantasy VIII has it as well.
Yeah. Final Fantasy
X reminds me of Kingdom Hearts, like that scene with Tidus and Yuna. That's
the thing, it's still very innocent, I think. I mean, the underwater scene, you can definitely see it kind of metaphorically as something else. it definitely has some strange...
Water represents everything.
Vibes
Water represents them.
to it.
I mean, to be fair, Final Fantasy... outside of 8 and I guess 10 as well, their romantic subplots haven't really been that much of a thing.
Yeah.
8 obviously is kind of there's a lot to do with that, especially just because Squall and Renoya, I don't know how to say her name, whatever.
I always thought it was Renoa, but okay.
Renoya, whatever. There's that entire thing and kind of everything that happens there, and of course if you want to get into fan theories, there's a lot you can do with that. But other games haven't really, like 13 obviously didn't really do anything besides,
there's Sarah and Snow, but
that's not really a subplot. That's like it's just
like this
happening.
is a thing that's here.
Yeah. Deal. And then when you go into 7 where you actually have like a choice, though they kind of push obviously Aerith a little more, Aerith and Tifa a little more strongly. They try to do an entire like triangle out of that, but
none of them are really consummated. I mean, not like consummated in like the consummated thing, but like none really go to completion. It still sounds sexual if I say go to completion, but none of them are really like concluded, I guess, in a meaningful way that changes the story.
Yeah, the best part is that you can choose who you go on a date with, and I like going with Barrett just because nobody knows what to say during it. But
Yeah.
anyway, like other games, there isn't really that subplot that's like all that important or even touched upon.
Yeah, where like female characters don't really exist for like romantic interest. The problem with Final Fantasy is that, you know, without the Disney people there, they can kind of dress their female characters up sexually. And that creates a problem with the portrayal of women that, I mean, even Kingdom Hearts, I defend the outfits in Kingdom Hearts. That some people I think would argue like Kairi's skirt is really short and Aqua, you know, her back
It is
thing
hot
being
out there,
covered up.
okay?
Yeah, I don't really
How
have
the
a
Riku
problem.
and Sora walk around with those clothes on, I do not know.
That's
I
the thing
do
too.
not
I
know.
think that Kingdom Hearts is also very, I guess maybe not exploitative, but they show off their male characters quite a bit too. Riku has that little like belly button thing going on.
Like not even 5 minutes into Birth by Sleep, Ventus' story, just like the
shirtless thing, and like Terra is jacked, and Riku has like weird arms going on. So I'm okay with the portrayal of like bodies and outfits in Kingdom Hearts. Final Fantasy, they push it a lot. You know, Tifa has enormous tatas, and like don't get me started on Sydney in Final Fantasy 15.
Which that Tifa thing is really weird because it's a weird thing looking at the in-game model and then you compare it to the CG model, and it's just like it's almost completely different proportions. Which is actually, I'm glad in Advent Children they kind of toned it down.
I really like Advent Children. Just like tangential there, I like Advent Children a lot, and I know people crap all over it, but I like
I mean,
Advent Children.
it's
I
enjoyable
like
to
their
watch.
redesigns. Their redesigns are nice.
Yes, I love their new outfits. But yeah, so Final Fantasy is interesting. It has an interesting relationship to women because up until Final Fantasy 13, I don't think that they really put a woman in the main character role. Six, yes, there is six.
Six actually had it had dual female protagonists.
Yeah.
It had Terra or Tina. She's still Terra to me. I don't care what localizations say. And Celeste, okay, 6 is weird in general because you have these weird branching off points where you're taking over different parties of characters. So like in the beginning you have like this section where you're with Edgar, Terra, and Locke, and you're doing stuff. But you also have this other thing where you're with Gao, Cyan, and Shadow, and you're doing your thing over here. But for the most part, Terra was kind of the central figure to the first half of that game because she is this person who has amnesia, and you're trying to find out like who she is and what, you know, all this other stuff about her. And then after things kind of go to shit, you get control of Celeste, who was in your party beforehand, but she's now like, hey, this is kind of the main character now. And how that back end of 6 is set up is all your party members, because you have like 12 or 13 of them, you could literally just pick up 3 and then just complete the game. You don't have to get your party members back. So like in that last half of the game, you don't have to get Terra back. She can just be on her own doing, you know, her thing now. So it's just really interesting how that particular game handled its rather large cast of characters.
Right.
And just yeah.
Yeah, but I think that we can say that the majority of Final Fantasy main characters are male. But they have always had, you know, pretty, I think, varied women, at least in the background in the main party. There are some cases where we say, like, why could they not have been the main character? Like, especially with Final Fantasy 12, that's a lot of people's complaint with it. Like, they should have just made Ash the main character.
I don't care what people... She was
is
the main character.
She's
the main... She is...
It's baffling to put Vaughn and Pinello in there.
Vaughn and Pinello were added last minute anyway.
And it shows.
But it's like Ash is the central character in there. I mean, it would have been interesting if they stuck with their... I mean, I know you don't like the character, but it would have been interesting if they stuck with their original plan of Bosch being the protagonist, as in taking whatever Van's place was, I guess you can say. Because then you'd have Ash doing her thing and being, you know, the main driving force behind everything. But then you have the more personal side story of Bosch being this disgraced knight and him looking for redemption for various things. I mean, it would still tie into ultimately Ash still being the main driving force behind everything, but I just don't like Vaughn.
But no, I think that Final Fantasy has also been pretty positive towards women in putting them in. And, like, I love Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X is my favorite. That's what I'm playing right now, so that's really... And, you know, Yuna is there, and Yuna, I think, is kind of in the same way of, like, Ash. She is kind of that, like, sneaky main character that she is the one that the entire storyline revolves around. So I think that Final Fantasy is good towards women up until Final Fantasy 13, which I have a lot of problems with.
I mean, it has a lot of problems, but I wouldn't necessarily say it was bad.
I think that the first one, as a game aside, like its value as a game aside, it was good, at least in that it had a lot of women. They were all at the very center of the storyline, and okay for that. But, as the series went on, it got kind of creepy towards women, and that kind of sours everything else that came before it for me.
Yeah, I still haven't played Lightning Returns. I have it sitting in my collection. But it became so much
about just, like, exploiting the character of Lightning is a problem.
Yeah, that's... And it's not even so much exploiting in the sense of within the game. It was just everything
within the game mechanics.
Not even the game mechanics. I'm talking kind of just in like real life business world.
Yes, that too.
Like, because I mean the game mechanics, they don't bother me that much because it's not that terribly different from 10-2, which I didn't think that was that terrible either.
Well, that it's also Toriyama doing this twice is a little creepy.
That I forgot Toriyama did 10-2.
Yes.
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, as I said, I haven't played Lightning Returns, so I don't really have a good handle on that game.
Yeah, but I think that there are a lot of examples of strong women in the Final Fantasy series. Lulu, I like a lot. Yuna is really cool. So Final Fantasy has always been interesting, and I think that kind of extends to Kingdom Hearts' weird treatment. That, like, I want to go at Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy, like, all out and be like, you need to beef up your women, but compared to Western games and kind of in their own respect as Japanese games, they're not that bad in regards to women, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Final Fantasy in general has been kind of usually bordering
not great,
on...
but good.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes great. Some particular games are great, but there's never anything that made me say, "Wow, this is really awful."
Yeah.
But
up until Sydney.
I was going to amend released games, so maybe we'll never see. Maybe 15 will never be on there because 15 will never come out. But yeah, I mean, if you go back to the very first game, there weren't even like characters.
Yeah.
The first game is interesting because it started off with a very well-known trope of you going to save a princess that has been captured. And then it just turns into this really large, insane thing that goes across time and space. But yeah, I mean, the Final Fantasy series have been generally okay with a lot of things, and a lot of the characters at least have anywhere between minor to somewhat important roles.
Yes.
Like 2 is that way. 3 is escaping my mind right now. I have not played a lot of 3. I don't think I finished 3. And 4, you have like Maria and Rose, not Rose. Oh my, what is her name?
I have no idea.
I know you don't. Rydia or Rida or it's R-Y-D-I-A.
I called it like Rita or something.
It could be Rita. But yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy in general has been pretty okay with stuff.
Yeah. Which is what makes Final Fantasy 15 so baffling, that there are so few women that we have really seen, and we don't know.
I'm still wondering what happened to Stella, of all people.
Yeah, a lot of it is just too early. Like, it is very early to judge, but, like, the stuff that we've seen has been troubling. The stuff that has been said has been troubling.
I almost want to believe Stella does not exist anymore.
I don't know. I really don't know. I hope for Final Fantasy 15's sake that is not true, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It's just 15 is
a
bundle of
but it's like it's
stuff.
going back to that point that I made with Chain of Memories, that if you have just 1 or 2 female characters, then it's hard to present varied, I guess, portrayals of women. That, if Sydney is like our only main female character, that's a problem, because Sydney, it wouldn't be a problem if Sydney was like a very sexual character if it was offset by other female characters. But when she is the only example of femininity in the game, that is a problem.
Thus far,
yeah.
Because like as far as I know, there's, I mean, I shouldn't even say as far as I know. I would hope there are other characters.
Yeah.
Because as from the vibe I got from Sydney in general is that she isn't even a major
that too.
She's barely even a minor character. She's just kind of there.
Yeah, I do want to talk about if we want to bring up any other portrayals of women that we feel are really good or maybe really bad. One that I was told that we had to bring up by Hayabusa, I still don't know how to say it, was Korra and Asami from Legend of Korra.
I cannot speak for that because I still haven't seen Legend of Korra.
Well, you should.
I know. I figured you'd say, with you being you about it, that I'll eventually see it.
And I think that it is a really special portrayal of women because Korra is really tough. She kind of fills that, like, badass role. And Asami is also really tough. But Asami is really special because she is a very feminine character. She is beautiful. Like, everybody is, like, just staggered by her beauty. But she's tough, she's really smart, and it's really awesome. And she gets her own subplot of, like, dealing with her relationship with her father. And it's really special. It's a really special portrayal of women. And I think it's worth noting that, like, when the show was first proposed, Nickelodeon was hesitant to pick it up because they were worried about the female protagonist and that audiences maybe wouldn't respond well, that young boys couldn't relate to her. And they did, like, some test screenings and found that, young boys loved Korra, and they didn't say, like, oh, well, she was a girl, so I couldn't relate to her. So I think that Legend of Korra is a great example of, like, kind of doing women right.
Like, those two characters, actually, when they were first introduced, like, I think Korra's first line was when she was, like, a kid, and they discovered she was the Avatar, and she's like, I'm the Avatar, you gotta deal with it. Mm-hmm. And then I think Asami was just, like, remove the helmet, it's just, like, beautifulness, and then it's just like, hello, get ready to love me.
Yeah. I will say that they kind of turned it into a love triangle thing in the first and second season, and that bugs me just because love triangles are annoying, and I don't want to...
I do like how they brought that up later, and, like, I think when, like, Mako's grandma or something like that, she's like, oh, look at these nice, beautiful ladies. Mako, why aren't you dating these girls?
But I like that they had them come together. Like, they hated each other in the first season. That Korra, well, maybe not Asami, but Korra was very aggressive towards Asami in the first season. But that they ultimately, like, came together and formed a very close bond, and then walked off holding hands together into the spirit world and were super gay. It's a really nice, it kind of corrects the love triangle thing that they were doing early on. So I think that Korra and Asami are a great portrayal of women. I haven't watched The Last Airbender, but I'm told that they also do women very well.
Oh yeah, Katara I think was, like, really strong. Like, when you said a woman doesn't have to be badass to be, like, badass, I think Katara's tough in, like, how she sort of assumes, like, a motherly role in the group. I think she took on a lot of responsibility. Toph is also pretty cool in that, like, she's just like a kid who just does whatever the hell she wants and doesn't like to follow rules.
Yeah. Legend of Korra also has a lot of women in it, which is great, which means that they can do so much with all of them. Like, you have Lin, who is, like, a very badass, she's kind of masculine, but, you know, it is offset by the other character.
She's that tough beat cop who's like, damn, I should have gone into retirement.
She really is. I love Lin. Lin was, like, my favorite. And actually, what you're saying about Katara reminds me of Yuna from Final Fantasy X, that she is badass, but in her own way. That she is so brave, and she is so, I guess, resolute in what she's doing, and that is badass in her own way. And I really love Yuna, so... there's that.
And they really explore a lot about her past and her mother, and there is one episode where they take her through if she wants to get revenge on the guy, and while I won't say anything about what happens with it, it is a really interesting episode to see.
Oh yeah. Any other examples we want to bring up?
In terms of Avatar, or just anything?
Just anything really.
Yeah, because, I mean, we kind of had an entire episode on The Last of Us, which I also think was...
That's another one that Hayabusa wanted us to bring up, but go on.
Well, I mean, we had an entire podcast.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can mention it,
because, like, Ellie in particular is kind of...
phenomenal, amazing, the light of my life and my world.
Yes. She is interesting in that she was always kind of just this punk kid who just, like, just gave attitude to everybody. But as the game kind of go on, she kind of assumed a more, like,
she became a fucking fighter. She was,
because I mean, she as I said, she always had this attitude towards people, and she carried around a pocket knife, and, you know, she stabbed people and stuff like that. But by the end of the game, she became a lot of, like, more than that. She became someone who could just kind of go out and help, and spoilers, in case anybody is listening, go out and, like, protect Joel when he needed, you know, protection.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Somebody that cared about other people, I think, and kind of opens themselves to caring about other people, like,
especially
thinking about
because
the world that she's grown up in.
Yeah, because because caring. I mean, there's that in personally my favorite scene in that entire game is when she confronts Joel at the ranch, and how just for both characters, but particularly for Ellie, in that she is kind of calling Joel out on a lot of stuff.
That's because kind of my like little problem with The Last of Us going through it was that I really didn't like Joel, and I was angry at Joel for kind of projecting his pain about like losing his daughter onto Ellie, and I didn't like that. That was just really like squicky to me. And so,
but at the same time, I think that was kind of what a real reaction would be.
Oh, definitely.
Like how sometimes that is what you said. Like, strong characters don't have to be strong, but like real.
Yeah,
and I thought that was really good on both parts.
That's always my thing about Joel. I hate him as a person, but I think he's a fantastic character. That he is a very real portrayal of a person.
They built him well. Like, I love all Naughty Dog games, but what they did with those characters was good.
And so with the ranch scene, I love that Ellie had that moment of kind of affirming herself and saying, I'm not your daughter, and you need to stop treating me like that. I'm my own person, but I care about you, and like I want to stick around with you in my life. So Ellie is definitely a phenomenal portrayal.
Yes, and she's
so brave.
That
so
the entire game, to be quite honest, is just leaves an impact on a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, and I think that of course, if it was about Joel and that Ellie wasn't as much of a thing, it wouldn't be as powerful. It absolutely would not be. And Ellie is an example too of how a story can completely revolve around a woman.
Yeah,
and it's great.
Other games, I mean, there's actually quite a few games where I think that's pretty.
I mean, we could never list like every single game that has positive.
Like, I'm just trying to think of stuff I've played recently, which frankly hasn't been a lot. A lot of new stuff, I should say, because I replayed Mass Effect within. I played the entire.
Mass Effect deserves a shout out, I think, for its portrayal of women. Especially Mass Effect 2 introduces a lot of women. And a lot of them in very different roles, and especially Miranda's storyline, I think is phenomenal for looking at women. Jack also, and that Mass Effect is really good. And I think that Mass Effect also changes a lot when you play as Shepard as a woman.
Yeah, because that was my thing with this playthrough. I was playing as FemShep, and I like FemShep more than MaleShep.
Yeah, like my feelings about Jennifer Hill as a voice actress aside, I think that it becomes a lot more powerful as a game set in the not so distant future, saying that a woman not only is like this big like military figure, but a woman saves the galaxy. That's awesome. That is so cool. And not to say that MaleShep isn't cool or awesome in his own way, but I think that it kind of just adds that layer to it. BioWare, though, BioWare, they do really good and then they do really bad, and it's just like a mixed bag with them, I think. Yeah,
it is. But just going through it and having... It's weird, because I don't say it's not only because of the voice, but sometimes it is because just of how the lines are delivered and stuff like that makes FemShep seem like she has more personality to her, which I enjoy.
It's hard to bring up examples because I know for me at least, and I imagine for you guys too, that like if you're playing something and it's really just looking at women badly, I feel like you're not going to like it as much. Like it's just always nagging in the back of my brain, and sometimes I've stopped playing things or watching things just because I'm so tired of how they treat women. I know a lot of people are in that place with Game of Thrones right now, that they have just quit it because they're so tired of how it is treating women. So like it's kind of like just the things that I like always are good towards women.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't think you've played this though.
I'm actually surprised you liked Star Wars that much, because it wasn't like Princess Leia pretty much.
Star Wars is interesting because the original trilogy, Leia really is the only woman with like lines or a role. And I think that Leia is a phenomenal character. I have actually a lot of problems with how she's portrayed in episode 6, but I think in 4 and 5, she is a great character. She is the only female character, and that is a problem, but she is a very good portrayal of a woman that
she wasn't the only female character. There was a...
There's others are shown briefly. There's Aunt Beru, but
there you go.
You know, the prequel trilogy has more women in it. The
prequel trilogy is such the wasted potential it could have been.
Yeah, Padme. I love Padme, and I wish Padme could have been more. But yeah, no, my nagging problem with Star Wars has always been women are not really a thing in it, and that's why I'm so excited for the new trilogy that what's her face. I always forget her name. Daisy Ridley. Yeah, that's her name, right?
We have the internet at our disposal.
I'm horrible, and I always forget. But yeah, that she seems to be the main character, or kind of a main character.
Yeah, but yeah, like, there's a few other games I know you've been wanting to play, especially because of the developer, but Remember Me, I think, does a pretty good job of just... Because, I mean, she is that badass who's, kicking people around and being that, but she's also... There's these segments where because the entire game kind of revolves around her not knowing exactly who she is. Mm-hmm. So you have these very... somewhat lengthy sequences where she is questioning herself, her past, these people she's taking orders from, because when you awake, there's this voice that's like, hey, I was the resistance leader you were working for, and we're doing all this stuff, and we're going to continue doing stuff and to help you. And so she has these moments of like, should she be trusting this person as she is? Because she's trying to fit in the role of what she thinks her previous self was, but she's not entirely sure of who that was, or even if she wants to be that person now. So that's very interesting.
And that's of course a storyline we so rarely get to have with women, kind of like affirming their personhood. So
and of course, speaking of Don't Nod, there's also Life is Strange.
Man, Life is Strange.
Yeah, that is...
I still have to play that game. Like, I saw like a bit of a playthrough.
I still have to play episode 3.
Oh my god. We'll save that for later.
I think I'm just going to wait until they all come out, and then I'll just buy them as a package or something.
Yeah, because I would say...
It's torture waiting.
Yeah.
I would say probably by September, they'll all be out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just wait till then. Try and avoid spoilers. That'll be hard. I have the internet.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many examples that we could bring up, is kind of the idea. And I don't want to, like, waste time just saying, like, this game.
When Saren was revealed as a woman.
Yeah, but I think that the idea here is that I really want to dispel that myth around the term strong female character, because I still use the term strong female character, and I want people to understand where we're kind of coming from when we use it on the podcast. And the things that we brought up, they're things that probably we've all kind of checked out at some point or another. They're things that we mention a lot on the podcast. But saying that, like, especially with Kingdom Hearts, I really just wanted to explore it.
Yeah. Because, like, I mean, the entire thing about the typical, like, badass thing, like, since I just brought up Life is Strange, I think Max is a very strong character.
Yes.
And she is the complete opposite of what I would say of someone who's, like, kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah. And especially, like, now that we're kind of, I hope, getting into the news cycle for Kingdom Hearts 3, maybe we're getting close, that I am going to be saying a lot how I want Kairi to have a bigger role, how I want to see more women in it, and I want everybody to understand that doesn't mean that I want Kairi to pick up a Keyblade and immediately, like, stab Xehanort through the heart, and that be her role in Kingdom Hearts 3. That's not what I'm expecting. That's not what I'm expecting, and that's not what I want, but... I want her to just become a strong female character. I want her to have a role. I want her to be well written. Yeah, so like I said, I really wanted to clarify the term strong female character. I wanted to respond to the kind of Mad Max thing, just because it's been in the news a lot, and because I saw it. And, talk about maybe...
It's really good.
Yeah, please
you should
see
watch
Mad
it.
Max.
You
if
really
you take
should watch it.
From this podcast
if you've already seen it, see it again. I've already done that.
Yeah, and especially to support things with strong female portrayals, to give your money to them and say, like, this is a successful thing that will make a lot of money, so that developers can't pull that excuse of, like, oh, a game with a female protagonist won't do well. Yeah, so, and in the context of Kingdom Hearts, like, I want to establish kind of where we are with women and maybe where we want to go.
I hope speaking back to Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key, there are 5 foretellers shown, and 2 of them appear to be women, so I'm hoping that they elaborate a little bit more on them. I know they're just faceless figures, and they're just whatever right now, but the, Vulpes and, Anguis, I think the other one is? Yeah, they're the snake and fox
Vulpes would be probably fox.
Yes.
Yeah, Vulpes and Anguis is the snake one. And the other 3 appear to be like the bear, the leopard, and the unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
So, unicorn is such... I know Cassie would love the unicorn, but that's such a weird thing to include among the other animals.
It's Kingdom Hearts,
Unicornus.
I mean, yeah, I know, but...
The unicorn shows up a lot in Twilight Town, actually. Like, near the mansion.
I've never noticed.
Oh, well, look around.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but so the Kingdom Hearts series, it has a lot of potential to introduce new characters that are women. I mean, maybe not now because we're kind of tying up loose ends, but after Kingdom Hearts 3, I think that they really could go in strong with the portrayal of women, and I'm really excited for that. And with the new characters that we are going to be introduced to with Unchained Key, like Crowley said, you know, there could be a lot of women there, and that's always good. And I always want more women. So to go into user-submitted questions, sorry, I forgot where I was going, but okay.
Wow, you forgot your entire spiel.
I know,
this is a first.
It's back, though. To submit a question to the KH-Vids Podcast, all you have to do is fill out the form linked with every episode of the podcast, or send an email to podcast@KH-Vids.Net. The questions can be directed towards the host in particular, or the group in general, and they can cover Kingdom Hearts to KH-Vids to our lives in general. So, the first question comes from Graxy, and he asks, what 2 colors and 2 numbers would you prefer to see for the rest of your life?
Numbers, that's...
Yeah. I like 8 and 2 as numbers. I just think that they're pleasing numbers. And that's...
I would agree with 8. I'm not sure about 2, though. What if we chose a number that had all the numbers in it?
I'd like to see ones and zeros forever, just to see everything. What would end up in binary? What would end up in... What would make sense?
As somebody who deals with that, I would not want to stick with that. Because that is already me. Like, whenever I see 10, I don't think 10. I think 2. I don't know. Like, the 1, I like the look of 1. But...
Oh, I don't. My 1s look like 7s.
Well, you've seen my handwriting, but my numbers all look alike in some way or form.
I'd honestly just like to see 6s everywhere.
666, Crowley is the devil.
No.
Podcast revelations here.
Yeah, what if you had a number like 983,001, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of what that number, like...
I have to write it out. So
yeah, I would have to write it out too because I don't know.
987,654.
No, it would be 987 million.
Yes, 987,654,321.
That way you'd have access to all the
for the rest of our lives.
You'd have access to everything. But
yeah, he should have said digit and not number.
Yeah.
Or digit would be the right.
But if we're going to fall into the digit thing, I'd probably say 8 and 1, or maybe 8 and not 3. 4s weird me out because there's like so many different ways you can write a 4.
It's so interesting how people have like preferences of like this is my favorite number. Just like where the hell does that come from?
8s are pretty interesting.
The other question though, color.
Yeah, colors is I think the tougher one.
2 colors.
I mean, I wanted to say black and white because I feel like. But yeah,
because you've been playing the Unfinished Swan.
No, but but I mean, I feel like that's a cop out because black and white aren't necessarily colors. I mean, I guess white encompasses all colors, so there is that. But I feel like just seeing the world in black and white, not like seeing the world in black and white, like seeing in absolutes, but like in grayscale, I guess.
Yeah, but would grayscale be included in that though?
I don't know. Are we talking about like just the pure black and white, or like having different shades and tones and everything?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like,
yeah.
I guess if you said red, I don't think everything would be just like bright red.
Yeah.
Seeing
but
everything
I
in
think
sepia would be
cool.
I think, the next best thing to color in terms of black and white, just like old-timey sepia colored.
True. I think that seeing in black and white for a couple days would be cool. So
a couple of days.
Yeah, not for the rest of my life, but
yeah. I mean. I kind of like blue.
Blue is nice.
I guess seeing things in shades of blue wouldn't be that bad. Maybe red.
Blue and red though.
I know that would be a weird combination. It's like it's that's a good question. What would go? I mean, I guess blue and if you really want to get technical, isn't like purple just a really weird shade of blue?
It's blue with red in it. Yeah, like are we limiting ourselves to primary colors or? What's the deal here, Graxy?
Yeah, your black and white suggestion would be interesting if you had a grayscale, the gold, like if it was like a black and white TV.
Yeah.
That'd be actually kind of interesting. Just to see what details stand out and what details are lost
Yeah,
when you do
and then
that.
at the end of your couple days, you have that like Wizard of Oz moment of like entering the world in color.
That
would be fun.
Oh God, everything's in color. What movie was that? I'm trying to think of. There was a movie where I think they go into like a TV show that's in black and white, but the entire world is like black and white.
Pleasantville?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, oh my God, there's color now. What is this?
Yeah, it was Pleasantville, and also The Giver did that as well.
I've never seen. I've read the book. I've never actually seen the movie.
Well, it's like a huge plot point in the book.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I know it's. I'm just speaking of, I guess, visual media.
Anybody have anything to add, or shall we? Go
for
ahead,
me, I do. I think I'd do blue and purple for the colors because they're the most like calming colors.
That is true. Putting everything in red would probably result in like
make you
murders.
angry
Yeah.
or something.
I mean,
yeah.
so long as it wasn't yellow, I'd be okay with it. Because
Your weird hatred of yellow will never make sense to me.
I don't have a weird hatred. It is scientifically proven.
Yeah,
to
my
be-
media arts teacher explained this to us, that putting things in yellow and, orange are really risky, but like some companies like McDonald's obviously has the yellow.
What if you had red and
things.
yellow and so you're just hungry all the time?
Yeah, maybe, because those are like fast food colors.
I feel like
in
that
some
wouldn't
way.
be different from my life right now, so...
I think for numbers, I'd also just... I don't really understand the thing with the numbers. Like, would you see them floating around, or would,
I'm
like...
not sure.
Say you
Maybe
see, like,
it's-
the date on the board, you would only see 07, everything else would be, like, white or something. I don't know.
Would that apply to hearing them as well?
I don't know.
Because, like, if
Like,
somebody...
like in Kingdom Hearts when they can't say the word picture, like, exactly like that.
I'm thinking of like bank accounts now, and of course the number I would want to see in my bank account would be like 100 million. That maybe that 900 million number, that would be good in my bank account. Yeah, but I don't know. This is a weird question.
You only see 0.
Yeah. Oh, that is kind of like my life right now. Next question is from Quilligan, and he asks, you've just returned from an epic quest of awesomeness. You walk into a bar with a gnarly thirst. You turn to the bartender's counter to see a platypus dragon hybrid drinking with a squirrel-faced unicorn. What color of blood is on your Knuckles gloves? I think it should be gloves Knuckles, but it says Knuckles gloves. Yeah, so what color blood? We got a lot of color questions today.
I would say blue.
I was gonna say green.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I could see that.
What bleeds green that I'm thinking of?
I don't know.
Is it possible to ask the platypus dragon hybrid what he thinks? Like, because if I can't identify the color, I'd like to at least get an opinion from the hybrid animals sitting across from me. You know, see what they think.
Maybe if you can only see in 2 colors, then you're not seeing the same color as the dragon hybrid thing.
Well, there you go.
But how do you know what they're seeing is actually the actual color? Maybe they have color impairment as well.
True. How do we know that we're all
you start
seeing
a
the same
conversation,
colors?
and then you make friends from
How
there.
do we even know these things talk?
Well,
they could not talk for all we know.
They were in a bar, so you know they got drinks, and as long as the bartender's still alive, I'm going to assume they just ordered it.
I was gonna say, because you were asking, green, what bleeds green would be like worms, leeches, and marine worms. I don't know if that's like entirely...
I thought you were just talking about fictional things.
I was thinking fictional
okay.
things also, but
I was not.
That's good to know.
I was going like really in depth in this. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, blue. I mean, I guess I know a lot of games censor blood as green when it's not supposed to be blood, but like this isn't blood. It just looks a lot like it, and it's green. Like I know Germany. Germany has the weirdest censoring. Like they've censored like actual people to be robots, and so whenever you shoot people, you're shooting robots, and then they bleed like oil or whatever. I don't know what bleeds green. I've only saying blue because I've been playing Mass Effect, and that's what Asaris bleed. So.
But see, if it's on my knuckles, then like that would mean that I was beating up some Asari, and I don't want.
That's not
I was
necessarily.
gonna say, I thought Misty was like more of an archer. Like
True.
Epic Quest, you know, maybe I'd carry a shield.
I mean, maybe somebody came up really close to her, so she needed to punch them out of the way.
I don't think that I can punch. I've never punched a person in my life.
You work
Neither
in the
have I.
movie industry and you've never punched someone?
No, somehow that has never come up.
I mean, I work in no industry and I haven't punched anybody, so.
It's like sneezing. It's kind of weirdly satisfying if they deserve it.
Whoa, Crowley! Damn.
I'm not saying I have. I'm just saying it's probably what that would feel like.
Oh, okay.
That's
Probably
you,
for,
you,
like,
you, you
most
didn't include
villainous.
probably the first time.
You sounded like you were speaking from personal experience.
I think we were talking about blood here, not about whether or not I punch people. So let's get back to that.
Yeah, I would not want blood on my outfit at all. Blood is really hard to get out, also. So
Yeah.
that's a
And if it's
problem.
like a different color, then I'm sure it's
Yeah.
probably harder.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's blue, I own more blue things than I do red.
But would you
things,
be
so-
wearing blue gloves?
I mean, I wouldn't be wearing red gloves, so
Could you pull it off?
matter.
If the blood is the same color as what I'm wearing, I think that would probably be the best in case I just want to wash it out. Like, you can quest and all, but like at the end of the day, you still gotta wash the stuff.
I'm thinking of that episode of The Office where it's Halloween and Creed comes in covered in blood, and it goes to like the little like talking head thing with him, and he's just sitting there. He's like, "Is today Halloween?" That always cracks me up. Yeah. So I don't know how to
Brown
respond
blood.
to really either of these questions.
What about that, huh?
Brown
blood.
Brown blood. Well, I don't
If you
wanna get
walk into
gross
that
on
bar
you.
with like a brown ooze on your hands,
That
they
is
might
also
not let
true.
you enter.
That is also true.
That's also the cover of Poop. Color of Poop. So
Cover.
that's
Yes,
yeah.
cover.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. That you're walking with on your hands.
That is also true.
Or you can just like try and like play it off. It's like, I found that chocolate fountain. Everyone run.
Ugh. Okay, so community news and projects.
I love how you're just moving on.
Yeah.
You're just like not even ending the segment. You're just going on.
Ew. Community news and projects. I don't think we have anything particularly to talk about. I want to plug our E3 plans again. That we are planning to live stream E3 conferences and have us there, where you can like
Now with an
interact
extra
with
show.
us and talk to us. Yeah, now with both Nintendo and Square Enix. So please, if you're interested in joining us for live E3 coverage, let us know, because we would really just like to do like an interest check here. And that's the dealio. So if you guys have anything else you want to plug, go ahead.
Game of the month for June is up. If you want to vote on that, there isn't anything really that interesting coming out. I think. Let me actually check real quick. I don't even remember the games that I put up, because they're all stuff I was hoping. Is this coming out this month? Oh, good, it is. I guess you're qualified. I think Batman is leading right now. Because I think that's the biggest game coming out that month. So
Also, he's
yeah.
the goddamn Batman. Yeah.
Personally, for me, the game I'm excited for is Super Hot. I don't know if anybody's actually heard of that game or not, but it is a game where time moves as you move. So if you stand still, time is not moving. But your entire thing is that you're shooting. You're like in this gallery and you're shooting people. So you like move and you see the bullets move and you try to dodge them. And it's like it becomes almost a puzzle in itself, because you have these walls of bullets coming at you. But if you move just slightly, you can kind of get an angle at seeing where you should go to dodge it. So you can just kind of slowly make your way up, or if you're really good, you can just blaze your way through if you know what you're doing. And it's
The
just
action games are trying to make you think now.
it's always fun, and plus it has this weird title of Super Hot, and it has just the trailers they always released always just have this really deep voice just going like super hot, super hot, super hot, and it's just like sure.
I wouldn't even think that. I just hear the title Super Hot and I'm thinking, I don't know, like beach volleyball game? I don't know.
No, it is like a black and white and red.
I would love
thing.
a beach
Noir thing,
volleyball
or-
game.
There's DOA Extreme Volleyball.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Extreme hot.
I
Extreme
don't really
hot.
want to play Dead or Alive, though.
Free to play now. So
Yeah,
But yeah,
speaking
there's
of portrayals of women.
but yeah, that's my news, because there isn't really anything else coming out in June, because nobody releases anything in June.
Nope. Is that everything we got for community news? Probably. Yep. So there are a lot of ways you can participate in the KH-Vids podcast. You can submit a question to the KH-Vids podcast by filling out the form leads with every episode of the podcast, or send an email to podcast@KH-Vids.net. You can apply to be a member guest on the KH-Vids podcast. We would love to have you. All you need is a Skype account, a microphone, and headphones, and you can find that form with every episode of the podcast. You can submit a topic to the KH-Vids podcast by filling the form in the sticky of the podcast section. I keep screwing this up. I'm so angry at myself. I used to have it down. You can fill out the form linked in the sticky of the podcast section, so you can tell us what you want us to talk about. And of course, you can just leave a comment on the podcast episode. Tell us what you think of when you hear the term strong female character, what you feel have been some really great portrayals of women in video games, movies, books, whatever, where you would like to see the portrayals of women improve, and tell us about Mad Max, because I want to talk about Mad Max with people.
Mad Max. I'll gladly talk with you about that, because really I have a lot of feelings about that.
Yeah, that guitar. And so thank you all for listening, and happy Kingdom Hearts.